So apparently this is what happens when you start reading Berserk and you also run a YouTube channel. You start out like doing big reviews of entire books, and then that eventually becomes, sections of books, and then that becomes a couple of chapters at a time. Before you know it, you're doing single chapter reviews and breakdowns as the chapters come out. So here we are, chapter 375. And we start with the siege again, but this time we're going to see it from the other side, from the perspective of Eyeliner Guy and the old guy Daiba. And throughout the chapter, you really get a sense and a feeling that this is really a ragtag group of people that don't really necessarily work together or know if they're going to work together. They're still kind of feeling each other out to see just how much they can even trust each other. Which is actually really important because now we're getting ready to inject another lump of people, our people, Guts' crew, into this group of kind of hodgepodge people brought together by necessity. And we're going to now kind of have to incorporate our group into this group and learn to work together as an even larger group of people with varying levels of cooperation, I would assume, in the future. And I really enjoyed this chapter, even though we don't really learn anything new from this chapter. It's really essentially just a continuation of the scene from the last chapter with a few extra, perspectives added into it. But it's a continuation of them sieging the ship and what happens as the ship gets sieged. And eventually they're going to bring out the beast in chains. And of course, this is the most dynamic scene in the entire chapter, but there's a couple of things I really liked about this chapter, or at the very least noticed about it. Starting with Farnace's brother, what the fuck is even happening to this guy right here? I don't even understand what he is drooling on himself with his eyes rolling back in his head. I'm not entirely sure what the wings with the circle is supposed to mean. If this is a manga thing, please help me. And educate me as to what this is supposed to mean. What is happening to this guy right now? But anyway, Farnace's brother aside, and in all seriousness, my favorite thing about this chapter and in this scene in the chapter is the fact that it focuses almost entirely on Isidro. And I am very well aware of the fact that I am forever making fun of Isidro, and, he's not necessarily one of my favorite characters. I get all that. But for this scene in particular, what a good choice to focus on him and his reaction to it. We could have focused on any number of characters, all of the characters, or picked any one of them to focus on, and it would have worked. But he stood head and shoulders above the rest, at least as far as a focal point for the reaction shot, because of who he is and his relationship to the group and his relationship to Guts in particular, the way that he's always viewed Guts, the way that he, he's the youngest of the group. He's also this kind of rebel kid who also looks up to Guts in such a almost unrealistic way at times. And then to see him lowered to this and just see the effect that it has on him personally, what a choice. I can't praise that decision enough. That was, as an emotional beat for the chapter, there could not have been a better person to focus the attention on. And I must commend them for making that decision. It was fantastic. Also, a quick side note, I really like the new role that Puck has been playing lately in these last few chapters of just kind of silent observer. And I know it kind of goes like, oh yeah, just stop being funny, Puck, and just stand there and watch. But for real, it adds a different feeling to some of the scenes, especially considering that he does come from such a comedy background, and that standing off to the side with whatever that face, there's a name for it, and just cracking jokes. And now all of a sudden, he's not drawing funny, he's not acting funny, he's not saying anything funny. He's literally just standing off to the side But I love it, I appreciate it, and it just adds to the mood and the feel of everything that's happening, because if you've got him to shut up, something serious must be going down. Anyway, Rickert comes out and confirms to himself that it really is Guts that he's seeing here in this moment, and then he's going to introduce himself and the Kushan troops to all of the crew, essentially smoothing over this transition and making it flow a little bit better, and without, as much fighting as there probably would have been without his presence there, and also politely explaining to Roderick that your boot is being seized, my dude. Also, I really do greatly appreciate that the old man Daiba, even though he points out how impressed he is that the troops took the Black Swordsman hostage, he's by no means dumb enough to think that they could ever contain him if he wasn't complying with his own captivity. He makes some kind of comment that they couldn't hold him if he chooses to quicken, which is just a great word. It's just a great word in general, and I really hope that's the translation, because it's, if I've noticed anything as I read these chapters as they drop, getting a decent translation out of them is really a crapshoot. Well, let's just say that. But the old man flies off and says, "I'll await you and the Black Swordsman at the capital." So the next time we see this group of people should essentially be all together on shore and very well aware of the fact that it's within all of their best interests to work together. So I guess the boat trip's over, because essentially the last shot of the entire chapter was them all going ashore, except for our crew, because our crew's still on the main ship, not one of the little ships. And you only know that because they're on the boat with the big double oar people, and the double oar people would be on the big boat. You even see the big spear guys in the background, and the spear guys, these spear guys are technically these spear guys, and the fact that they're sitting next to the oar guys means that they would be sitting exactly right here on the ship. And I have no idea why I was so hyper focused on exactly where they were sitting on which ship. But for some reason, I spent way too much time looking at that picture, figuring out exactly where they were in the image. Don't ask me. And considering that this scene was a natural extension of the scene from the last chapter, there wasn't a huge amount of tension, there wasn't a huge amount of suspense, or oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It pretty much played out essentially as you expected it to play out. And it wasn't until the very end of the chapter, when I saw Schierke laying next to Guts, that I even remembered that she's off in the astral plane right now. It clicked in my brain. I was like, oh, I forgot about Schierke. So now my biggest cliffhanger of an ending for this was actually, what's she up to? What's she doing in there? And what's going on with her in this astral plane? Because she went deep into it. And I'm interested in that, way more than what's going on with these guys, and what's going to happen when they get to shore, and what's going to happen when they all start to try to talk to each other and work together, or more than what's going on with Griffith over there. Although the last time we saw Griffith, he said to the east. And I'm assuming the east is also the same direction of the Kushan Empire. Essentially, this capital city that these guys are in right now. So if I was a betting man, I would say that Griffith is currently focused his attention directly on the spot that everybody is at right now. But anyway, like I said, my biggest focus right now in my mind as I think about the implications of the end of this chapter, just keep going back to, where is Schierke and what exactly is going on right now in that astral plane? That's what I want to know. Anyway, as always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. Anyway, as always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.